the fact that there's no public transportation, well, very limited public transportation where I live, and I do live outside the access to that transportation, so I couldn't even get it from my community. I also had to find work that was within a reasonable distance from my home. Literally, like, could I walk from wherever I was? If I needed to get someplace and I couldn't get someplace, could I walk? Could the people in my life who were willing to be supportive at the extreme ends of the day or in the middle of their own day, could they drop what they were doing because I was only 10 minutes away, not 45 minutes? Going to Hartford for work was really not an option at that time in my life. Going to any of the better wage paying urban environments was really not an option. So for a very long time, in what should have been the highest growth potential for me as a professional, I was actually working at my lowest potential. Good work, important work, work I valued, but not work that paid. And so the cycle begins.
And you really spoke to that so effectively. And you talked too about the amount of planning that went into every decision you made. And, you know, I'm just thinking that the average person out in the general public who's never had to worry about a car being available, you know, how does that compare? I mean, you can almost compare it yourself to maybe what life was like before.
Sure.
And the work that goes into planning for all eventualities.
Right. So I currently have Husky as my insurance, which I am very grateful for. And purely because of age, I needed health services. My doctor said, it's time to do these things. And some of those things required some extensive services. So I begin, and I'm unemployed, so I begin the process of trying to find the physicians who will take my insurance. And the very first struggle that I have is just navigating the website. Not that they haven't done a good job, but it is incredibly complicated. There is just so much information on it. Good for them, but overwhelming. And I think to myself, wow, and I'm a literate, educated person, and this is a challenge for me. And then there was the amount of time that I had to spend calling the physicians, because the website, despite everyone's best efforts, is not up to date. So 7 phone calls later, and I have found a doctor who will take new patients, and I know to ask the questions, because again, I have resources. I can say, this is my insurance, are you taking new patients, do you have space in your, I can ask all the right questions. So, hours later, I don't have school-age children at home or younger children. I can do this free of encumbrance in my home. I have a computer, I have a telephone, I can pay for these services still at that time. And I think, wow, how hard would this be? And I don't think people have any idea. People for whom, you have your medical insurance card and it's got the 1-800 right, and you just call up and the next thing you know, you got a doctor's appointment. Woohoo! Well, it's not like that when you're receiving services. And then it turns out that the doctor that I get to go to is in Farmington. Great! So I get lucky again because I have a parent who has capacity, and my mother can take me 3 times, 2 times, I still have an appointment coming, so it's going to be 3 times, to my doctor's appointment in Farmington, which means that the doctor's appointment isn't just the 15 minutes or the hour, it's all of the time that it takes on either sides of that. And I don't have to pay for that transportation. My mother does not make me pay her. And my kids are where they need to be, and they don't require my care or anyone else's care, and I don't have issues of their transportation that I have to deal with. And it worked out for me. But I have resources.
You have a support network.
I do.
And that makes all the difference. And you talked before about falling in a gap where certain things, even though you didn't have the wherewithal to pay for them, were not available to you, and that having that support network was what got you through. And
what would you do? And there were times when especially in the phone calling portion of the whole thing, I felt like the website part, I could do this at my pace and I would get through it. I would figure out how to use Husky to get these advanced services. I knew I could do that. And then I started the phone calling part. And like I said, by my 5th phone call, there was a part of me that said, forget it. I don't even want to do this anymore. I don't feel sick. I'm probably not. I don't need this service. And I think to myself, how many people, when challenged, with far more than I was challenged with, would just say, I don't need this.
And when you're experiencing that level of challenge, just getting what you need, and you know you have the wherewithal
Yep.
to follow through,
Yep.
it makes you realize, doesn't it, that if you're really in crisis mode already, and making a phone call is maybe not something that you really can handle.
No. Figuring out how to put the car seat into the WRTD bus, or how do you manage 2 car seats, one for your infant and one for your 5-year-old, which are different kinds of car seats, and you can't universally use them in these ways. And just when you think about the multiple layers that transportation is for people, and just getting their basic needs met, and how impossible it is in the Northeast corner to get these basic needs met. We were talking earlier about